Hey there, Adam Napolitano here from Writing and Fire, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me today for this webinar. I promise over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to deliver as much value as possible because my goal for you is at the end of this webinar, you can go back with real actionable information and start making improvements to your sales letters and sales funnels right now. So you can start seeing those boosts in conversion rates from some of the simple principles that we're going to be talking about here today. So I know you're probably itching to get started. I'm going to dive right into the meat of this presentation and reveal to you what the #1 sales copy killer is that I see time and time again, something that you might be overlooking in your own sales copy. And the unfortunate thing is that even if you're doing everything else right in your sales letters, if you get this one thing wrong, you're usually doomed from the beginning. And this one thing alone, if you botch it up, is going to tank your conversion. So I don't want that to happen to you. And if this is something that you're suffering from right now, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Now, before we dive in, I just want to take a couple minutes and give a very brief introduction because chances are you probably don't know who the hell I am, probably never heard of my name before. So it's only fair that I tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm even qualified to be talking to you about how to improve your sales copy. So first I want to start off with just a couple pictures here. The one that you see on the right is of me and my beautiful wife, Jenna. And this was actually taken a few months back. We took a trip to New York City and caught a show on Broadway. We saw the School of Rock musical, which was awesome, by the way. If you're into any type of musical or Broadway shows, definitely check it out. I've always loved the School of Rock music, the School of Rock movie, I should say, with Jack Black. Big Jack Black fan, and so definitely really cool. Check it out if you're ever, ever in New York City. And then here, this image on the left, again, is my wife, but this time we have our 2 fur kids here in the picture. And Jobin, he's our 6-year-old Shih Tzu there at the top of the chair, and then at the bottom, this scruffy little dude staring up at my wife. He's Jax. He's our 2-year-old Schnauzer mix, and we actually recently adopted him in December of last year. And so the reason why I'm even showing you this is because it seems like you always hear business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs talking about your why. What is your why? What is your reason for getting up every day, busting your butt, working hard to run your own successful business? What motivates you? Well, now you know my why. So I just wanted to take a moment and share that with you. And now just a little bit about me professionally. I've been writing copy and consulting with other business owners and entrepreneurs on marketing for well over a year now. And one of the things that I really love about copywriting, and not necessarily specializing in just one niche, is that I get to see so many different topics. I get to research, learn about, and write about so many cool and interesting things that I otherwise wouldn't get the opportunity to do. And so I have a lot of experience writing copy in a bunch of different industries and niches, from the survival prepper niche, sales trading, some life coaching, of course, weight loss, a little bit of internet marketing thrown in there too, health supplements, IT consulting. So as you can see, I got a lot of experience writing about a lot of different topics. And what I'd like to do now is just share a brief client case study, because people always like to hear results that you're able to achieve for other business owners or entrepreneurs. So I worked with a client, Rovan, who was already very successful selling weight loss supplements online. He came to me already having a 7-figure per year business, but really all he was doing, I mean, the majority of his business was coming from pay-per-click advertising, mainly Google AdWords, and he was just sending that traffic directly to his websites and his landing pages, and that's how he was making sales. Now, all the while, he was collecting a bunch of information and a bunch of data from his customers and even from his prospects who did not buy from him. He was collecting email addresses, but for whatever reason, he wasn't following up with them. And so then it dawned on him, luckily, at some point, that, hey, I have all these email addresses. Maybe I should actually start following up with these people, see if I can't make some more sales. So he came to me, and I just created a very simple 5-part email autoresponder sequence. And the very first email in that sequence, from just one blast, one send to about, I think it was a list of 2,000 subscribers, none of which were buyers at this point. And that one blast alone generated over a 1,200% ROI within just a couple days. And so now he's on track to add an extra healthy 6-figure per year income to the money that he was already making from one simple little email sequence selling just one supplement. So I thought this was a great example of the power of combining an effective and proven marketing strategy with engaging and persuasive copywriting. So at this point, I'm going to stop talking about me because that's not why you're here anyway. The rest of this presentation is all about you and how I want to help you maximize your conversion rates on every piece of sales copy that you have for your business. Now, first, I want to share this quote from Seth Godin, who I absolutely admire as an independent business owner and entrepreneur. Very bright guy. If you don't follow Seth at all already, highly recommend that you check him out. But anyway, I love this quote. Facts are irrelevant. What matters is what the consumer believes. And this is so important because this applies in a big way to writing sales copy. Now, I would paraphrase it a little bit. I wouldn't say that facts are irrelevant with sales copy. That's not necessarily true, but facts are far, far less important than what the consumer believes and what they feel. So keep that in mind as we continue on, because that's really going to set the stage for what we're talking about here. So you're probably dying to know at this point, the reason why I even came to this webinar, what is the #1 sales copy killer that can tank even the best sales letters if you get this one thing wrong? The answer, of course, is a weak promise. And the promise is what you're telling your audience, your potential customer, that your product or service will do for them if they buy. And if you know what you're doing, or your copywriter knows what they're doing, you're going to present a very strong, compelling promise right out of the gate, right in the very beginning and opening of your sales letter. But this doesn't always happen. I can tell you from experience in reviewing and just even reading and watching so many different sales letters, this is something that is botched up a lot of the time. And it doesn't have to be that way because it's not as difficult as you might think. So what is a weak promise? Well, here are some examples. Describing your product or service. Droning on about the features of your product or how it works. Again, no one cares. That's not why your potential customer is here reading or watching your sales letter. Also, if you're trying to appeal to someone's sense of reason or use logic with things like facts, figures, statistics, that's a surefire way to kill your sales conversions right from the very beginning. And a more obvious one, lack of benefits. If you don't make it very clear what benefits your product or service will deliver in an enticing and compelling way, you're going to lose most of your audience right from the beginning, meaning most of the traffic you're sending will never even make it to your offer. So they'll never even get a chance to see what you have to offer, never had that chance to buy. Now, on the other hand, what makes a promise irresistible to the point where your audience cannot help but continue reading or watching your sales letter to find out more, to find out what you're all about and what you have to offer? Well, telling what your product or service will actually do for your customer is a big way to accomplish this. Again, it all comes back to benefits. What benefits will they enjoy as a result of investing in your product or service? You want to ignite a burning desire and curiosity within your audience to where they can't help but find out more. They can't help but to continue reading and watching your sales letter. Now, depending on what it is you're selling and who your audience is, fear can be an extremely powerful tool, because it's no secret that fear is a very potent motivator and a great way to get people to pay attention and take action. Obviously, this wouldn't apply to every situation or every product or service, but if it's called for, it can be extremely effective. And one of the most important things to always keep in mind when you're crafting your promise for your sales copy is appealing to the emotions of your potential customers, not logic. Leave logic, leave reasoning, leave rationalizing and rational thinking at the door. It's all about triggering the right emotions in your audience. And another useful tip for you: whenever you're writing sales copy, or if you're hiring a copywriter or someone else to write your sales copy for you, always be on the lookout and avoid at all costs what I like to call the juggernaut effect. Now, I don't know about you, I'm a big fan of X-Men. I really love all those sort of superhero movies, Avengers, Batman, Superman, all that stuff. Love it. Anyway, the Juggernaut, even though he's not technically a mutant, he does have special powers. And so one of his powers is that when you piss him off, or when you trigger him in some way and he gets moving towards you in a straight line, he quickly picks up momentum and speed to the point where he becomes unstoppable. He's generating so much momentum, so much force, that anyone or anything that gets in his way will be destroyed. But in his normal state at rest, to start off, he's kind of this big, not very bright, and actually kind of slow, lumbering dude. But like I said, when he's triggered and he gets moving in that straight, he starts progressing in that straight line, man, does he pick up steam really quick. This is something I see all the time in sales copy. The sales letter gets off to a very weak start. The intro is unappealing. They're not making a strong promise, an interesting promise that's compelling to their audience, like we just talked about. But if you stick around and force yourself somehow to continue reading or watching, as the sales letter progresses, things get better. They start doing the right things. They start pressing on those right pain points. They start triggering the right emotions. They start clearly articulating compelling and powerful benefits that their customers will enjoy if they invest in the product or service. So by the time you get maybe halfway, even 3/4 of the way through the sales letter, okay, now we're cooking. All right, everything's firing on all cylinders. But guess what? At that point, it's too late, because you had such a weak start, a slow start. You've already lost most of your audience, and they will never, ever get to see your offer and even have a chance to buy. This is a juggernaut effect. Avoid at all costs in your sales copy. Now, here's a pro tip for you on how to prevent this from occurring. The key lies in the editing process. Now, I can tell you from experience in writing copy, some of the most of the revisions that I make when I'm writing sales copy winds up being in that opening or early parts of the sales letter. And if you think about it a little bit, I mean, it makes sense, because if you yourself have ever sat down to write anything, whether it's a sales letter, even a blog post, article, really kind of any piece of content, but especially a sales letter, man, those first couple sentences, those first couple paragraphs, they're often the hardest words to get out on paper. Okay, if you're like me, I don't even start with the headline, right? I often don't write the headline until I'm finished with the sales copy, or at least maybe half the way through, because then it gives me more ideas for a compelling headline. So often I'm just starting with that greeting, dear friend, dear Bob, dear whoever, blank. All right, have you ever experienced that? I mean, it can be frustrating. It's tough. But if you kind of, force yourself to muscle through it, once you get typing, your fingers loosen up, they're typing more easily, the creative juices are flowing. And so as you progress throughout the sales letter, your copy tends to also progress as well and get better. That's why it's so important when you finish that first draft, or even if you receive an initial draft from the copywriter, right? Read through it, put it away. I like to sleep on it for at least a night, then go back to it again, read it with fresh eyes, fresh perspective, and then I'm more able to pick out things that not quite sure what I was thinking there. I think we can tweak this so it's a little more effective. Okay? And that's how you'll maximize the impact and effectiveness of every single part of your sales copy, especially that crucial opening and those beginning parts of your sales letter. So there's a pro tip for you. Take it for what it's worth, but I can promise you, if you use this in your own sales copy, you're going to start seeing much better results even if that's the only thing that you do, the only change that you make. Now, what I'd like to do is use an example here, because I don't know about you, but I tend to kind of really learn and understand concepts if I can see an example. So that's what I want to give you now. Now, I just want to give a disclaimer. The example you're about to see is completely made up. It's hypothetical. I made it up for the purpose of this webinar, just to really drive home the concept and difference between a weak and strong promise to open a sales letter. So for this example, let's pretend, okay, we're gonna have a little fun here, that we're selling a paleo diet ebook, okay? Paleo diet ebook is what we're selling. And now this is gonna be an example of what we would consider an opening to this sales letter that's very weak and most likely would be very ineffective and have just flat out shitty conversion rates. So, dear friend, do you know why over 6 million Americans trust the paleo diet to help them lose weight? Quite simply because it's one of the safest and most effective diets known to man. The origin of the paleo diet can be traced back to prehistoric times. The only food available was whatever could be hunted or gathered from nature. That's why traditional paleo diets were rich in meats with a focus on healthy, saturated fats instead of dangerous trans fats. But today's modern paleo diet has evolved. You don't have to stuff yourself with meat and eggs all day. You're able to enjoy full-fat dairy products, a variety of fruits and vegetables, and even some processed junk food, all in moderation, of course. But you know what's really crazy? Our prehistoric ancestors were much healthier than us. They didn't have nasty diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, or autoimmune disorders that now affect millions of Americans. In fact, the only reason their lifespan was so short was due to high infant mortality and the complete lack of modern medicine that we enjoy today. And the facts don't lie. A recent study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed the paleo diet group lost an average of 14.3 pounds at 6 months compared to only 5.7 pounds in the low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet group. As you can see, the paleo diet works plain and simple. For these reasons and many more, the paleo diet is about to become your new best friend in losing weight and improving your health. So there is our weak promise example for our sales letter, hypothetically selling our paleo diet ebook. And I just want to give one more disclaimer. Okay, those statistics, like 6 million Americans, I made that up. So again, not all of this might be factually accurate, just created this for this example. Okay, so why is this considered a shitty promise that is likely going to tank our sales letter and our conversions? Well, we're trying to appeal to logic and reasoning. Look how we open the sales letter. In our very first sentence, I'm using a statistic, right? Things like statistic and numbers tend to appeal more so to the emotional, or I'm sorry, the rational and logical, side of our brain, right? And we're relying way too much on facts. I'm kind of giving a history lesson on the origin of the paleo diet. Now, while some people might find that interesting, that has no place as an opening to our sales letter. Now, if that was just maybe a blog post or an article that's meant to just sort of, inform, educate, maybe entertain a little bit, then that's not bad. That's acceptable, but not for a sales letter where the only goal is selling our ebook. I even quoted a clinical nutrition study, the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition. No faster way to make someone's eyes glaze over right off the bat than starting to quote scientific studies. Now, studies like this are a form of proof that does have their place in sales copy, okay, especially when you're talking about health-related stuff that you're selling. But that should come much later. Once you've already triggered those emotions and gotten your potential customers salivating because they can't wait to find out more about what you have to offer them, not to open your sales letter. Also, I was describing what the paleo diet is, talking about what kind of foods you're going to eat. At no point did I really go into, hey, this is what the paleo diet will actually do for you if you follow it. Horrible, horrible way to open a sales letter. Extremely weak promise. Now let's take a look at an example that would be a better, more compelling, stronger way to open this same sales letter. Dear friend, would you like to lose 10 pounds in the next 10 days? And would you like to drop that weight without starving yourself or counting calories? If you answered yes, then I have some exciting news to share with you. You can lose weight and shed fat while still eating the foods you enjoy. That's exactly what Joanna did. You'll see her story below. You can be next if you put the simple but powerful paleo diet to work for you. Now, before we continue, I need to give you a warning. Once you see how easy the paleo diet is to follow, you'll start experiencing dramatic changes to your body. You'll stare with delight into the mirror each day, watching your waist shrink and your belly flatten. But not even that will compare to the joy you'll feel when you comfortably slip back into your favorite pair of jeans, the ones you haven't been able to fit into for the past 7 years. And to be honest, the fat you'll melt away is only the beginning. Imagine waking each morning fully rested, ready to attack your day with positivity and enthusiasm. This might feel a little strange at first because you'll be walking around with a vibrant magnetic glow. Friends, family, coworkers, even strangers will go out of their way to be in your presence. And don't be surprised if you get flooded with questions like, you look amazing. What have you been doing? I know you've probably been burned by fad diets in the past, diets that promised everything and delivered nothing. But once you understand the paleo diet, you'll instantly know why it delivers on every promise. Here's how it works. So, now obviously this example is by no means perfect. And again, I just whipped this up quick for the purpose of this example. But I think you'll agree compared to the first sample, this is much better. This paints a much more vivid picture and presents a much more compelling promise in terms of what benefits our customers will experience if they follow this paleo diet, right? This opening is very benefit rich. Very first sentence, would you like to lose 10 pounds in 10 days? They wouldn't be here reading our sales letter in the first place if they weren't interested in dying to lose weight, right? Fit into that old pair of jeans that you haven't been able to wear in years. Obviously that bit geared more so towards women, but if you think about it, how often have you heard a woman in your life maybe kind of just complain or long to be able to fit into an old piece of clothing that used to be something they loved to wear, it made them feel more feminine and attractive and sexy, but they put on a few pounds, haven't been able to wear it for years. How good would it feel to be able to slip back in, right, to that sexy pair of jeans? Do you see all of the wonderful emotions something like that is going to trigger in our potential customer? And we're using the power of picture or visualization. We're actually asking or telling our audience to imagine what it will feel like going through their average day and getting all this extra attention from others that they're probably not used to. So this is full of benefits and triggering emotions to really pique their interest so that they're looking forward to, they're excited to continue on and see where this takes them and what we have to offer. Now what I'd like to do is go through a few numbers with you, sticking with our paleo diet ebook example. I want to show you how easy it is to massively increase your income with even a small or just modest increase in your conversion rates. Okay, you might be skeptical, and I understand if you were skeptical, but once we go through this little exercise with some numbers that we plug in here, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. So again, we're sticking with our paleo diet ebook example. And let's say we got just a very, very simple sales funnel. We have our $47 ebook. That is our front end offer. And on the back end, we have just one upsell. Let's say we got a $97 video training upsell. That's it. Front end offer, one upsell. Now, let's say we're sending 500 visitors a day to our front end offer, to our sales page, and it's converting at 4%. That means we're generating 20 ebook sales a day at $47 a piece. That's $940 a day in ebook revenue. Now let's say that our upsell, that video training course, is converting at 20%. Very realistic, very modest, even sort of a conservative conversion rate for an upsell. That means at a 20% conversion rate, we'll be making 4 sales of our upsell each day at $97 a piece. So that's an additional $388 per day of revenue. Add these two figures together, and that means we're generating a total daily sales revenue of $1,328. Okay, so keep that number. Now, what if we're able to bump up the conversion rate on our front end offer, that ebook, from 4% to just 5%? So again, a modest increase. You're talking what? A 25% increase in front end conversion rate? Okay, very, very achievable. Now let's look at our numbers with a 5% front end conversion rate. Well, if we keep everything else the same, we're still generating 500 visitors per day to that sales page, but now, because of that small increase in conversion rate, we're generating 25 front-end sales of our ebook. So that's $1,175 per day in ebook sales. Our upsell, still converting the same. That's still converting at 20%, but now, because we got more sales on the front end, now we're making 5 sales of our upsell per day. That's another $485 of revenue. Adding those two numbers together, now we have a total daily sales revenue of $1,660 with our 5% front-end conversion rate. That's a difference of $332 per day. So think about that just for a moment. By just increasing the front-end conversion rate for our ebook offer from 4% to 5% and changing nothing else, we are now generating an extra $332 in revenue every single day. That's almost an extra $10,000 per month. Project that out for a year, 12 months, that's an extra $120,000 per year. You've added an extra 6 figures to your income by only increasing that front-end conversion rate from 4 to 5%. You've done nothing else. You've changed nothing else. Do you see the power and how easy it is to generate massive increases in your income and your sales revenue by just small, modest increases in your conversion rate? I really want to drive this home because I just want this concept to be very clear to you. This is why you owe it to yourself and your business to do everything that you can to maximize the conversion rates of your own sales copy and squeeze every possible sale, every possible dollar out of your sales pieces. And if you start using some of the information that we've been covering here, I guarantee you're going to start to see those conversion rates increase. All you got to do is take this information you're learning right now and put it to use, put it into action. So how much money do you think you might be leaving on the table with your current sales letters and funnels? Are you even happy with your current conversion rate, or do you feel like that there's room for improvement, that you can be doing better? You know you can do better. And here's another myth, something that I want to dispel right now, because this is something I see and hear way too often. A lot of times, if you have a new sales letter or a new funnel, brand new, shiny sales letter funnel, you got everything, all your ducks in place, right? You're ready to rock and roll. All that's left to do at this point, turn on the traffic, watch the sales flow in, right? Great feeling. I mean, there's like no greater sense of excitement from a business perspective, kind of in that first initial time you turn on that new sales funnel and you're just waiting for those sales to come flying in. But something goes wrong, your sales copy for whatever reason lays an egg and your conversions are in the toilet, right? That's a big bummer. It's a huge disappointment. Most of us, if not all of us, have been there at some point in our business. Well, what I see a lot is when that happens, it's easy then to kind of get down and depressed and think to yourself, well, geez, my sales copy, right? My sales letter must be absolute, complete garbage. Guess I just got to trash it. And, well, back to the drawing board, time to start over. That's not necessarily the case. You may have a very strong, solid piece of sales copy. And you might only have one or two areas that need some slight improvement or tweaking, maybe a little bit repositioning or reframing. And that could be all that's standing in your way from virtually no sales and massive conversion rates. So right now, if your conversion rates are not where you want them to be, all is not lost. You may not have a complete dud on your hands. You may only be one or two small tweaks away from massive increases in your conversions. I want you to remember that. And keeping that in mind, I would now like to present you with an offer today that you're, of course, under no obligation to take me up on. And I'll be perfectly honest in telling you that the offer I'm about to introduce to you is not a good fit for everybody. But it's something that may be a benefit to your business, depending on where you're currently at and what your goals are. My 10X Sales Igniter Copy Critique. This is a brand new service that I'm rolling out in my business, my copywriting and consultant business, Writing and Fire. And I will review any piece of sales copy, any sales letter of your choosing, and review in excruciating detail all 10 critical elements that every successful, high-converting sales letter must have. And I'm going to reveal to you what those 10 elements are right now. So even if you and I don't ever wind up working together, you're going to leave here today knowing my 10X formula that I use for every piece of sales copy that I write and that I review to ensure that I've maximized the impact and effectiveness of every necessary critical element that every successful sales letter needs to work and turn into a conversion machine. Element number one, obviously the headline, right? This is where it all starts. Does your headline grab attention, force your audience to pay attention, and does it pre-qualify or disqualify? Not everyone who arrives at your sales page is going to be an ideal customer and someone that you want in your target audience. The headline is a great way to prevent time from being wasted and get rid of tire kickers right from the beginning. This is something I look at in detail in every piece of copy that I review. Number two, the promise. Okay, we discussed this in detail in our webinar today, so there's really not much left to say about that. Number three, your story. It's no secret that facts tell and stories sell. Okay, just look at Hollywood. Think about any good movie. What are some of your favorite movies? Why are those movies, or maybe one movie in particular that stands out, that your absolute all-time favorite? Why do you love that movie so much? Oftentimes it's because that movie has a very interesting plot and story to it, right? As humans, we are naturally encapsulated and raptured by a good story. That's the basis of any good book, right? Best-selling novels, some of your favorite books that you've ever read, especially fiction. The ones that do the best are often the ones that tell the best and most relatable and authentic story. Does your story support your offer? Do you even have any type of story element currently built into your sales copy? If not, that's a problem. You're leaving sales and you're leaving money on the table. Now, something that I encounter is, well, I don't think I have an interesting story, or, I don't really have a story about me specifically or my product. That shouldn't stop you from using storytelling elements in your sales copy. Let me give you an example. Just about a couple months ago, I wrote a VSL script for a survival product. And what was interesting kind of about this situation is that when I was hired to write the sales copy, the product itself did not exist yet. Now, I was provided with a brief and kind of really it was sort of a bare bones outline of what the product was going to include. But, I had to get creative, do my research and kind of flesh everything out. And ultimately, my finished sales copy was going to largely dictate what was in that product. So in this case, since the product didn't even exist yet, obviously there was no story there, right? That I could tell specifically about the product. It hadn't been made yet, right? But I knew I still wanted to use a storytelling component, especially in the opening, to interest and engage my audience. So what I did is I borrowed a popular story that was big in the news not too long ago that related directly to what my sales copy would be selling. So you may have heard of the story yourself in the news. There was a hiker named Jerry Largay. I think it was a couple of years ago in 2014. She was hiking the Appalachian Trail, somehow wandered off the trail and was not able to find her way back. She was on her own, and she was actually an experienced hiker. She's done a lot of hiking, but she had an awful sense of direction, this poor woman. And long story short, she couldn't find her way back to trail. She wound up setting up her own little campsite somewhere in the woods. Turns out she was only 1 or 2 miles at the most off the trail, but she died. Exposure, starvation, dehydration. Rescuers weren't able to find her. And I mean, the most tragic part was that they estimated members of the rescue party at one point were no more than like 100 meters or 100 yards from where she was, but somehow they didn't see her. She died. And so this was a popular and well-known story in the news. So I simply use that story as part of the intro and opening of my client's sales letter and transition into, how would you feel as a husband or as a father if your wife, your daughter was stranded alone lost in the wilderness, off some trail, unable to find her way back, without any skills to survive on her own until rescuers arrived. How helpless would you feel, right? And so that was the kind of the angle and transition that I took, and it was very effective. So that's just an example I want to give you of how you don't necessarily need, a personal story about you or about your product or service in order to include engaging storytelling in your sales copy. Critical element number 4, building rapport. You gotta get that know, like, and trust factor established, at least in some capacity, if you're gonna get someone to buy. Easy way to do this, acknowledge the biggest and most glaring problems that you know your audience faces. Forge an agreement and yes mindset. So kind of what I mean by this is acknowledge problems that you know your audience has struggled with, and that is the source of their greatest frustration. So kind of going back to our hypothetical example here of a paleo diet ebook, obviously these are people who want to lose weight and improve their health. Well, what's something that people who have struggled to lose weight for years, what are some of the common things they struggle with? How about trying all these trendy fad diets that wind up not working, or that prove to be too restrictive and impossible to stick to, right? So you could include, a section in your copy where you're kind of asking leading questions that you already know the answer to. You already know that in their mind, your audience is going to be answering yes to all these questions. So you could ask something like, are you sick and tired of trying the newest fad diet only to be disappointed when you find out it doesn't work or is too restrictive, making it impossible to follow? Or, again, now obviously that's just an example off the cuff here. You would really make it much better than that in your actual sales copy, but I think you see where I'm going. When you're asking leading questions like that acknowledge your audience's biggest problems, you're going to get them, nodding in agreement and saying yes in agreement, even if they don't realize they're doing it, because you already know the answer. You've done your research. You know what those problems are that your audience suffers and struggles with time and time again. Also, part of building rapport is your USP, your unique selling proposition, why you and why your product. Okay, I don't care what you're selling, what industry, what market you're in, you have competition. And you have competition who probably sells what you do or offers what you do at a cheaper price. So why should a customer choose you over your competitor? Something very important that you really need to think about when you're writing your sales copy. Number 5, strategic subheadlines. This is a source of error I see all the time too. Really, there's 2 major functions that subheadlines should serve in sales copy. And obviously this is going to apply more so to written long form sales copy. Easy reading, and do they give the big picture? People, when they're searching for information online, we're extremely impatient. We have overwhelming ADD. We want to find what we're looking for yesterday. So when someone lands on a massive sales letter, even if it's the greatest piece of direct response copy to ever be produced, many people in your audience are not going to read your entire sales letter word for word, at least not on the first time through. That's what subheadlines are for. Someone should be able to read your headline and your subheadlines and nothing else in your sales letter and still come away knowing what it is you have to offer and how it will help them. If your subheadlines are not achieving that, then you're doing it wrong. And again, you're leaving conversions, you're leaving sales, you're leaving money on the table. Number 6, testimonials. Are they compelling? Are they believable? This is a big one, okay? With social proof, testimonials, bigger is not always better, right? Bigger numbers, bigger income claims, bigger result claims, okay? People aren't stupid. They have very good BS meters. Hype does not work nearly as well as it used to, with kind of the main exception maybe still being the internet marketing, make money online space. But if your testimonials seem too over the top, too hypey, that's going to turn people off, and that can actually hurt your conversions. Also, generic versus specific, right? Obviously you can't, always dictate the content of your testimonials, especially if they're authentic. And I would hope, you have the integrity of using real, authentic testimonials from real customers, or even if it's a beta tester, whatever, right? Anytime possible, use specific testimonials where the customer is sharing a very specific result that they achieved from your product or service. This is much more powerful than just those, plain generic vague statements that go something like, oh, I bought Adam's product, it was really great, it helped me a lot, I struggled to lose weight, but it finally started helping me to lose weight and find a diet I could stick to, right? That's not compelling. Okay, that's not interesting. But on the other hand, a testimonial, something like, when I first picked up this paleo diet ebook, I was skeptical because honestly, I've tried so many different diets in the past and none of them worked for me. But in the first 60 days of following this diet, I lost 20 pounds and have more energy than I've ever had in my life. I fit into clothes that I haven't worn in 10 years and I couldn't be happier. Do you see the difference, right? Specific, use specific, result-based testimonials whenever possible. Critical element number 7, proof. So we just talked about social proof, but there are other forms of proof that your sales letter may need too in order to create and establish credibility and help you make the sale. So, for example, if you're selling a health supplement, it makes sense to talk about some of the science behind why the supplement works to deliver the benefit that you're promising. So it's definitely appropriate to maybe quote a couple reputable clinical trials or studies that support your claim and support your offer. The key is doing this at the appropriate point in your sales letter. If we go back to that example I showed you of the weak promise, using proof like this, quoting studies, scientific literature right off the bat in the beginning is usually a recipe for disaster, because at that point you haven't done enough to articulate the benefits that your customer will enjoy and start stirring up those emotions that you need to. Because remember, proof and any other information that appeals to logic and reasoning should come in towards the end to help confirm and support someone's buying decision that they've already made in their minds based on their emotions. Now, for that very last step, they're just looking for that piece of logical proof to confirm their decision. And is your proof credible? Again, if you're making over-the-top, hypey claims, that's going to hurt your conversion rates. Number 8, your actual offer. This is not the time to get cute and clever, but unfortunately, this is something I see a lot. For whatever reason, marketers, entrepreneurs, they love to try to get real creative and clever when it comes to their actual offer, okay? There's plenty of room for creativity and maybe trying to stand out from the crowd, a little bit here and there in the other parts of your sales letter, not with your offer. Keep things simple and clear. Frame or position your offer as the ultimate solution to your customer's problem. Summarize again how it will deliver the benefits and promises that you've already made in the sales copy leading up to your offer, and include a strong and clear call to action. As long as you do all these things, you're going to maximize the effectiveness of your offer. Number 9, strong guarantee. Anytime you can eliminate or at least minimize risk for your customers, do it. This gives them much greater confidence in you and your product or service, and naturally is going to lead to better conversion rates. Finally, number 10, close. Re-summarize the promise and benefits that they will enjoy from your product or service. Restate your offer in very simple and easy to understand terms. Invite them to join. Tell them exactly how to join and instill a sense of urgency if appropriate. And that's it. You now know the 10 critical elements every high-performing piece of sales copy must have. And like I said, regardless if we ever do business together or not, now you have this framework to use for every piece of sales copy that you have in every future sales letter that you write or get created for your business. And I almost forgot the X factor. Don't forget about the X factor. People love to buy, but they hate being sold. Is your sales copy conversational? This is the X factor. Conversational sales copy. High pressure, over the top, salesy, right? Sales copy rarely works anymore. Your sales copy should read like a casual conversation between you and a friend, as if you and your friend are sitting down, maybe for a meal at a restaurant or just out at the bar, having a couple beers, shooting the breeze, having an informal, casual conversation. In most cases, this is how your sales copy should read. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule, but most of the time you can't go wrong emulating this style in your own sales copy. You'll definitely see a boost in conversion rates if you're able to do this. So now you know exactly what my 10X Sales Igniter copy critique covers. I go through every one of those 10 critical elements, including the X factor, in great detail for your sales letter. And any findings, any recommendations that I have for improving your sales copy, I'll present to you in a video presentation, much like what you're watching now. So all of my suggestions and recommendations will be put into slides, and then I'll record a screen capture video elaborating and going into detail about each one of those recommendations and how to implement them into your sales copy. You get all this for just a one-time payment of $249. Now, this is a limited availability offer because, like I said, this is a brand new service I'm introducing, so I'm just looking to over-deliver on value because I know that even once I get a few of these under my belt, I'm going to get a couple glowing testimonials back. And once I get that social proof, the price is going to skyrocket. I don't know exactly how much. I'll probably at least double it to around $500. I honestly don't know yet. And I also don't know how many slots I'm going to limit this offer to for the $249, probably somewhere between the first 5 to 10 people that take me up on this offer. But again, I tend to change my mind some, so that could change a little bit. And in terms of turnaround, 10 to 14 days. From the time you purchase, answer some questions that I'll need you to answer, because obviously I'm going to need certain information in order to perform my 10X Sales Igniter copy critique on your sales letter. But once I have that information, within no more than 10 to 14 days, you'll have in your hands your brand new 10X Sales Igniter copy critique, your blueprint for knowing exactly what to do and what changes to make to maximize the effectiveness and conversion rates of your sales letter. And you might be wondering if this is right for you or not. As I mentioned earlier, this definitely is not a good fit for everyone, but let me help you out if maybe you're kind of on the fence, not sure if this is a good fit for you or not. Well, let me tell you who this is not for. If you're expecting me to rewrite your sales copy and come away with, again, a new sales letter, this definitely isn't for you. That's not at all what a copy critique is. Again, I will give you recommendations and guidance on how to improve certain areas of your sales letter, but at the end of the day, you need to take that information and then go make those changes. Or, if you hire a copywriter, have a copywriter on staff, pass it off to them, say, hey, watch this, make those changes, right? You still need to do the work. Also, if you have a lack of funds for sending traffic and for extensively testing your new sales copy, sorry, I'm not trying to offend anybody or put anyone down, but this is not for you. But if you think about it, if you're going to invest in a copy critique, go through the trouble of actually making those changes, but then not have the resources to truly test that new sales copy, to see how effective it is, to see what kind of conversion rates it generates, you're wasting your time. Also, if you're a procrastinator, nothing personal, but I don't want to work with you. Okay, I'm looking to work with doers and action takers who are chomping at the bit to do whatever they can to maximize their conversion rates, and they act on that quickly. So, who this is for, like I was just saying, if you're an action taker, if you're an implementer, that's great. I want to work with you. If you already have the resources for proper testing and traffic, you already understand that, sending just a couple hundred clicks or a few hundred clicks to your new sales letter is not going to even come close to cutting it in terms of an adequate test, okay, I want to work with you. If you know your current sales conversions, you know your numbers, you know your analytics, and you keep detailed tracking of all of your sales numbers, I know I can help you. I want to work with you. So hopefully that helped you kind of figure out who this is a good fit for and maybe who this might not be a good fit for. And again, I'm really not trying to insult anybody or put anyone out. I'm just being honest. Because again, I want to work with other business owners, other entrepreneurs that I know I can impact positively on the highest level. And I'm doing something a little crazy too. I'm including a guarantee that I haven't seen any other copywriters include for their copy critiques. It's called my Beat Your Control, or it's free guarantee. So what that means is that if you implement all the changes and all the recommendations that I include in my copy critique, and you extensively test that new sales copy with targeted traffic, and if for whatever reason it does not outperform your current control, I will refund every dollar of your purchase, all $249. Because in the rare event that my recommendations don't make you more money, which is my only job here, well, then I haven't done my job, so you get all your money back. Now, the only other caveat is that you must implement within 60 days. Because again, this is only meant for doers and action takers. So that means when I deliver your copy critique, you have 60 days to implement it, test it extensively, and then come back to me showing me proof, showing me analytics of your sales conversions before and after, your control, and the new sales copy based off of my critique. And like I said, if you can show me that proof, and if for whatever reason, in the extremely rare event that my new version that I helped you create does not outperform your control, you get a full refund. That's my way of putting my money where my mouth is, and really, if you think about it, eliminating all your risk. So at this point, you should have enough information to be able to decide if my 10x Sales Igniter copy critique is something that you're interested in and something that you know can benefit your business or not. If you want to take advantage of the special offer and reserve your spot, here's what you need to do. Go to writingandfire.com/copy review. Again, that's writingandfire.com/copy review, all one word. And there you'll be able to purchase your spot and your critique through PayPal. Now, once you complete purchase, you'll be redirected to a Google Docs form. I have, I think, somewhere around 10 questions, and I need you to answer every single question. It's very important. You answer all questions in as much detail as you can because, again, I need certain information in order to complete your critique and to do a good job. Now, once you do that, I'll receive notification and I will reach out to you personally via email no more than 24 hours after your time at purchase. Usually I respond and reach out to you much before that, but occasionally things come up. So I just ask that you be a little patient. You will hear from me no more than 24 hours after you purchase. And I'll acknowledge that I've received everything from you that I need. If I feel like there's still something or some bit of information that I need before I get started, obviously I'll let you know at that point. And that's pretty much it. Then I get to work, and 10 to 14 days later, you have your brand new copy critique in your inbox, ready to maximize the conversions of your sales letter. So again, if you want to take advantage of this special offer, my 10x Sales Igniter copy critique, only $249. Go to writingandfire.com/copy review. Reserve your spot now. And if you have any questions at all, maybe there's something that I didn't cover, maybe there's a concern you have, you feel I haven't addressed, feel free to shoot me an email to adam@writingandfire.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So thanks again for being here. Go to writingandfire.com/copy review, reserve your copy critique, and I'll be talking to you soon.